CyberHub bunker and studio. You're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, everyone, happy Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. I hope your week kicked off all right, because let me tell you something. For Apple and Apache and so many others, this week is going to seem really, really prolonged. And dare I say, as an Apple enthusiast, has all the glitter and kind of like security around Apple just been dissolved in a matter of days, weeks, and months. We'll get to that later on the show. Thank you for tuning into the Practitioner Brief, your 10-15 minute podcast on all things cybersecurity and privacy related, risk, impact, and mitigation. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe if you have not done so already. Find us on your favorite podcast listening platform. You don't want to miss it. That's that. Later today, I'll be dropping on the CISO Talk podcast a great conversation that I had on the live podcast I did last month with my good friend Kevin Cowan over at Synovus and my friends over at Simulate. Don't miss it. 30 minutes, great content on the future of the world of the CISO. Let's get some shout outs going on to David and Taylor. And Jane says, pitch to make a James and Cyber in the Morning mug. We're redoing the CyberHub podcast website, FYI, and we are going to have some swag, including coffee cup cheers and my Cyber Coffee Morning. So you definitely be able to get that, Amal, and I'll send you one. Take that on me. Good morning to Marcia as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you to KnowBe4 for their support of the show. It would not be possible without them as well. And now, without further ado, what would we be like if we did not kick off our morning with a cup of coffee or chai or whatever it is that you drink in the morning? Some people drink Red Bull still. But nonetheless, coffee cup cheers, folks. My double espresso. Absolutely love it. All right. We're kicking off today with Apple confirming an iOS 15 zero-day exploitation. For those who don't know, we actually talked about this yesterday on Clubhouse. So midday yesterday on Clubhouse at Jump on a Room, we're talking about kind of, what people have been able to take advantage of with the new iOS. And lo and behold, now Apple is confirming this for the world to see, that there is zero-day problems are getting much, much worse, which brings about the idea of how much bad code can one write, and apparently it's a lot. So weeks after shipping out the iOS 15 as a security-themed upgrade, Apple rushed an urgent patch to address a software flaw being actively exploited in the wild. The company is now urging everyone in iOS and iPad users to upgrade to the newest 15.0.2. This is their 72nd in the wild zero-day attack documented so far in 2021. 72. 16 of the 72 exploited zero days affect code in Apple's products. According to Apple's advisory, the security defect known as CVE 2021-30883 exists in the I/O mobile frame buffer, a kernel extension used to manage the screen frame buffer. An application may be able to execute arbitrary code with kernel. The report that this issue may have been actively exploited as well, although there's not a lot of details, but I can give you a few that I've seen, and I may just jump on Clubhouse later today and do that as well. So go check that out. Microsoft says an Azure customer was hit by a record DDoS attack in August. Microsoft mitigated a 2.4 terabyte per second distributed denial of service attack, targeting a European Azure customer during the last week for the month of August. This is 140% higher than the 2021 terabyte attack and higher than any network volumetric event previously detected on Azure, according to Amir Dahan, who's the senior program manager for Azure Networking. Also described it as a user datagram protocol reflection attack. The huge DDoS attack was launched using roughly 70,000 bots, mainly across the APAC region, meaning Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan, Japan, and China, and several from the US as well. The attackers hit Azure's infrastructure in terse bursts over a 10-minute time frame, each of these bursts reaching terabytes in volume. Dahan added that 3 attack peaks stood out, with the first reaching the maximum throughput at 2.4 terabytes. The subsequent ones going up to 0.55 terabytes and 1.7 terabytes per second as well. This is a 25% increase in attacks compared to 2020 Q4, where there was a decline. So just when we thought DDoS were on the back burner, folks, not so much. Maybe our best friend on this is the fact that if you are cloud-based, you've got a partner to help you deal with this as well. We'll move to our next story, and really this one is significant. The GitKraken vulnerability is prompting action from both GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. Developers of the Git GUI client GitKraken have addressed the vulnerability, resulting in the generation of weak SSH keys, and they are prompting users to revoke and renew their keys. This was discovered in the open source library that the Git GUI client uses for SSH key generation. The issue affects all keys issued using versions 7.6.x, 7.7.x, and 8.0 of GitKraken. The security hole was identified in late September, was addressed with the release of GitKraken version 8.0.1. The SSH key generation library was replaced with a new one, but due to the presence of vulnerability in multiple versions of GitKraken, users are advised to regenerate their own SSH keys, even if they've already updated to the patched version. Git hosting services provider like Azure DevOps, Bitbucket, GitHub, and GitLab have all been alerted of the issue so that the weak public keys in use could be revoked as well. Make sure you get those keys replaced. This is significant. This is a opening into your front, back door, side door, and windows, folks. An attacker being able to leverage these weak keys can then go in and get access, and then they can escalate privileges, and you can just imagine what goes on there. Beyond the threat of ransomware, this could be data leaks. You could look at data theft. You could be looking at protocols of putting in backdoor in your code. A lot of different things that could take place because of a weak SSH key. So please, please, please make sure to get that updated. This could enable also an attacker to gain unauthorized access to an account or repositories on GitLab.com or self-managed instances according to GitLab as well. So please make sure to get those redone ASAP. Finally, 2 more stories here, folks. So Iran-linked hackers are targeting U.S. defense tech companies as well as Israeli defense technology companies in an extensive password spraying attack. In the password spray attacks, for those who don't know, threat actors attempt to brute force accounts by using the same passwords across multiple accounts simultaneously, which allows them to hide failed attempts using different IP addresses. This enables them to defeat defenses like password lockout and malicious IP blocking designed to block multiple failed attempts. The activity cluster was temporarily dubbed Dev0343 by researchers at Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center and Microsoft Digital Security Unit, who have tracked it since late July. The attack aligns with Iran. According to Microsoft, it lines up with Iranian national interests based on techniques and targets aligning with other Iran-linked threat actor. Dev0343 was also linked to Iran based on pattern of life analysis and extensive crossover in sectoral and geographical targeting with other Iranian hacking groups. The targeting is in defense companies that support the United States, EU, and Israeli government partners, producing military-grade radars, drones, satellite, and emergency response communication systems. Further activity has targeted customers in geographic information systems, spatial analytics, regional ports of entry in the Persian Gulf, and several maritime and cargo transportation companies with a business focus on the Middle East. Since the attacks have started, less than 20 targets have been compromised, with Microsoft noting that Office 365 accounts with MFA toggled are resilient against the Dev0343 password attacks. If they're targeting that, you can also go passwordless. That would essentially get rid of it all as well, or use multiple authentication for stuff like that. Companies that have been exposed to this activity are encouraged to look for Dev0343 behaviors and tactics logs and network activity, including extensive inbound traffic from Tor IP addresses for password spraying campaigns, emulation of Firefox or Chrome browser, enumeration of Exchange Active Sync or Auto Discover endpoints, Use of enumeration password spray tool similar to the Office 365 spray tool. Use of auto-discover to validate accounts and passwords. And observe password spray activity commonly peaking between 4 a.m. and 11 a.m. UTC. Enable multi-factor authentication to mitigate these attacks. Also use two-factor authentication. Use the passwordless solution by Microsoft that also helps significantly, and block all incoming traffic from anonymizing services where possible. And we'll end with a digital signature spoofing flaw that's been uncovered in OpenOffice and LibreOffice. Again, Apache in the news. Again, folks, we've been talking about a bunch of different patches that they've had to do, and now the maintainers of Libre and OpenOffice have shipped security updates to their productivity software to remediate multiple vulnerabilities that could be weaponized by malicious actors to alter documents and make them appear as if they are digitally signed by a trusted source. Multiple CVEs on this one. I'm not going to go ahead and read them off. There's like 6. But you guys can definitely check it out in the link in the show notes. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see them right in front of you right now, or on LinkedIn, Twitch, Facebook, wherever we're streaming this, because we're streaming everywhere now: Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So definitely check this out. Successful exploitation of the vulnerabilities could permit an attacker to manipulate the timestamp of a signed ODF document, and worse, alter the contents of the document or self-sign a document with an untrusted signature, which is then tweaked to change the signature algorithm to an invalid or unknown algorithm. Both of these attack scenarios are significant, so please make sure to update if you are using OpenOffice for any business purposes. Folks, that's it for our practitioner brief here today. We'll be back with a lot more tomorrow, Wednesday. But until then, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, guys, stay cyber safe. Have a great rest of the day. Cheers.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.